Hello, welcome to the module Human Resource Management Information System, which is abbreviated as HRMIS. So by the end of this presentation, you will be able to understand the purpose and benefit of implementing an HRMIS in an organization, demonstrate proficiency in navigating and using the key features and functionalities of an HRMIS software, and effectively utilize the HRMIS to streamline and automate various HR processes such as employee onboarding, performance management, and leave management. And finally, apply data management techniques to ensure accurate and secure handling of employee information within the HRMIS. So let us look at the definition of human resource management information system. It is a software system designed to streamline and automate human resource management processes. It integrates various HR functions such as employee data management, recruitment, training, performance evaluation, and the payroll. So basically, it is all about shifting away from paperwork now to the online software. Traditionally, people have been using files to keep human resource information or any other activities related to human resource. But in this presentation, we're basically going to look at the software. How do you manage human resource information online instead of using it offline or the paperwork? So basically, we are looking at the, the online system versus the offline, the hard copy or the paperwork people are moving away from. Let us look at the key features of or characteristics of human resource management information system. One is the employee data management. So employee data can be the academic document, it can be the recruitment document, it can be any other information related to the employee. So it helps the management easily retrieve such information if they want to make use of it. Otherwise, if you put it in a hard copy or, or in a file, you can't search the employee's name. What you need to do is to go file by file, paper by file, paper. So it will consume a lot of time, and at the end of the day, you will not complete the task you want. So when you use the system, it's very easy for you. Just search the employee's name. All the information you want will come. The next feature is training and development. Uh, Documents to do with the training record or training need analysis of that particular employee can be accessed from the system. So that's characteristic two. Then characteristic number three is the payroll management. It streamlines payroll processing, calculates employee wage, and deduction generates pay slips. So what you need to do as the operator is just to feed the information there. Okay, the calculation will be done by the system automatically, and even the pay slip will be printed out. So with this, you don't need to get a calculator; you just have to feed the information accordingly. The next characteristic is employee self-service. That can be in terms of employees portal whereby an employee can easily log into his or her account and even update some of his information. So this allows employee not necessarily to visit the HR office all the time. It is one of the tools which can also help in empowering employees. For example, if an employee wants to apply for a leave, he or she doesn't need to come to the human resource office to start filling the hard copy or the paperwork to start filling the form. No. What that person has to do is basically to apply online from wherever he or she is. Then the HR will just be the one to now approve. So that is how the system actually helps the self-service of the employee in regard to their activities concerning their performance. So these are some of the features or characteristics of human resource management information system in the organization. Now let us look at the benefits or importance of human resource information system. One is it improves the proficiency. It can automate routine HR tasks, reducing manual effort and enabling HR teams to focus on strategic initiatives. For example, if you want to get employees' document, do you need to go and start looking file by file if you're using the system? All you need to do is type employee's name, then search. All information you want will be available for you. What you need to do is just to bring them out. So that is how it improves your efficiency in the human resource department. So this gives enough time for the human resource department to learn other strategic things instead of just uh, retrieving employees' information from the system. The next benefit is it enhances data accuracy. So by centralizing employee data, the human resource management information system minimizes errors and inconsistency, ensuring accurate and up-to-date information. So when you store data online, the information is accurate unless it is you who has not fed it well, because the system depends on how we manage it. So if you're good in managing data, you don't do errors, then such errors will not go online. The next person who's going to look for the information after you will find everything in place. So therefore, by doing that, those errors are minimized when we use the system than the traditional method of keeping the information in the file. Because in the file, you might end up keeping someone's academic document in another file, and then retrieving that data becomes a problem. So the system helps you to make sure that the information is accurate. The next one is cost savings. By automating process and reducing paperwork, the human resource management information system optimizes resources utilization and lowers administrative costs. The administrative cost in terms of data loss is going to be lowered. Administrative costs in terms of buying these hard copies or the papers, the photocopying paper etc. is going to be reduced, because with the system you don't need to actually buy. All you need to do is internet, a stable internet, then feed in the information you want. If it's about the employee recruitment, if it's all about a training record or any update on the academic of the employee, so it can be easily done online. The next thing we are going to look at now is the consideration for human resource information system implementation, or if you are planning to implement the system, what do you consider? The first thing you consider is the objectives. Okay, you need to define the objective. Under definition of objective, you need to clearly define the objective of implementing the system by identify the reasons why you want that system to be implemented. If it is all about improving efficiency or eliminating errors, it has to be clearly stated before you go into it. Then under objective still, you need to identify the specific processes and tasks the system should support. There are very many process or tasks the human resource department is handling. So you need to identify them specifically which one. If it's about recruitment, you need to identify that. And if it's all about performance appraisal, you need to also identify it so that the system can support it. Otherwise, if you don't identify those tasks in time, time will come when you are now implementing the system. You find that the system cannot run or cannot execute performance appraisal. It can't track it. By that, you will have wasted resources in terms of money, resources in terms of time. Still under defining objectives is you need to align the objectives with the overall HR and the organizational goals. So the HR objective is basically derived from the goal of the organization. So you need to align these objectives before you start implementing your HR information system in the organization. The next consideration is assess system requirement. Conduct a thorough assessment of your organization's HR needs. What are your needs as the HR department? For example, let us talk about training. If training is one of your needs, then the system you want to implement should be able to support the training section of that system. Otherwise, if it doesn't support the training, then you are going to face it rough. You will not be able to get the required outcome you want. So you need to look at that need of your department. The next one is identify the required features and functionalities of the human resource information system in terms of the speed, the reliability, the manageability. You don't need to have a system which is complicated to manage. Something complicated to manage is always costly, then it will give you the required result. So look at that. Still, under assessing system requirements, you need to consider factors like employee data management. When you talk of data management, it's basically about records. Okay, it could be academics, paper, it could be promotional letter, it could be the job description, the contract, etc. So it has to you need to consider such kind of data. Then also the payroll processing, all about now the salary, because we have the deduction, okay, the tax, the deduction, etc., and then the net payment. You need to also consider that. Then benefit administration and also performance management. So these are some of the aspects you need to consider under system requirements. So if you have these in place, then you're going to have a very good system. But otherwise, if you have a system which cannot even track employee data or payroll, it cannot process payroll, then that system is not considered to be effective for the organization. The next consideration is evaluate vendor options. So when you talk about vendor options, we are talking about the types of the system you want to implement or you want to have in your organization. So under evaluation of the vendor, you need to research and evaluate different HR vendors in the market. So there are very many systems in the market. So you need to look at them one after the other, one by one. Which one suits your organization so that you can easily procure it. Then you need to consider factors such as vendor reputation, the system scalability, security, and the support service. So when we talk of reputation, we are talking about the brand identity. Okay, how is that system in terms of reliability? Because you can have a system which is not reliable. Within 1 2 months, the system is down, or it cannot even support uh, some of the software or the windows you are having in the office. So these are kind of things you need to look at as a part of a reputation of that particular system you want to draw in your organization. Then the next one is you need to request demos and gather feedback from other organizations that have implemented the system. So it's all about asking the organization the system you want to use. They will give you better information and overview of the system. If the system is okay, they will also recommend you to, to buy it. And if it is complicated, they will also give you their view. So that will help you now assess yourself if you have the ability to manage it or you don't have. So basically, these are some of the things you need to do under evaluating the vendor options. The next thing is now plan for data migration. That's the next consideration. So when talk of data migration, it's basically transferring the data from the current system to the new one, or transferring the data from hard copy from the files to the system. So under plan for data migration, you need to determine the data that will be migrated from the existing system. Okay. If you have been using, let me say, the file, the hard copy, so you can start thinking or planning of how you can move the information from hard copy paper to the system. Then cleanse and organize the data to ensure accuracy and consistency. In terms of the name, in terms of date, uh, these are the things you need to look at to make sure that information you are putting online actually to avoid inconsistency. For example, if my name is Patrick Tattoo Sebit, then you find something is Tattoo Patrick Sebit. So that's what you call inconsistency. So there is no consistency in that because the system is said to be consistent. The next one is you need to develop a data migration plan to establish timelines. When we talk of timelines, it's all about now a deadline. So for any project to be implemented, there must be a time frame or time or deadline to follow. Otherwise, if you don't have the deadline in place, it might take the employees or the person who transferring the data the whole month, even the whole year, because of lack of deadline. So you need to always have the deadline to track progress to regulate the progress of the data transfer or migration. Then lastly, you need to allocate resources for data validation and testing during the migration process. The resources can be in terms of technology and in terms of any other support needed for the people of the team, which is transferring the data. That resource is important. That support you're giving is very important. For example, you need to collaborate with the human resource department if you are the IT person who is entering the system, I mean the data in the system, you need to work closely with the human resource department. You need to use some of the resources of the human resource, for example, the data you can put personnel file. Okay? You can provide you the personnel file to make sure that you get information from there and then put in the new system. Basically, these are some of the activities you do under planning for the data transfer. The next consideration now is consider security and privacy. You need to pay close attention to data security and privacy measures. This is to make sure that employees' sensitive information is concealed. Otherwise, if you reveal employee sensitive information, that's unethical because the employee is going to be stigmatized. And what happens when he or she is stigmatized is that the performance, of course, is affected. So you need to be very careful when you are transferring data in terms of privacy. It should not be revealed at any cost. Then you need to ensure that the human resource information system complies with the relevant data protection regulations. Finally, you need to regularly monitor and audit the system for any security vulnerabilities. So how vulnerable is your system, okay, in terms of hacking? So you need to monitor because we have hackers. If sometimes even the employees within the organization, they can hack the system. And when they hack the system, of course, the organization of valuable information or the employee privacy is no longer secret. And that one is very dangerous. So as a manager, you need to make sure that you always regulate the system to see whether any security threat. Now, the last one is develop training programs. So you need to design and deliver comprehensive training programs for HR staff and end users. The human resource staff, people who are going to be feeding in the information or who are going to be managing the system, they have to be trained on how to use the system. Then the end users are the employees of the organization, the people whose information are on the system. They need to be trained on how they can access the information. They need to be trained on how they can update some of their information and also how they can generally how they can use the system. Still under development programs, you need to train HR personnel on system administration, reporting, and the troubleshooting. So in case of any problem, they need to know how to report or how to troubleshoot it, and also to manage the system in terms of updating the software, etc. Then lastly, you need to provide user training to ensure employees understand how to navigate and utilize the HRI information system. So, because they are the end users, employees are the end users, they need to be trained on how to use it. Otherwise, if you don't train them, they will not know how to use it. For you can be having their data on the online on the system, but will they be able to use them or access them? They will not if training is not given to them. So it's very important that you need to give them training so that they will be able to access the information they want. Now let us look at some of the challenges in human resource management implementation. Everything has got challenge. Challenge number one is lack of stakeholder buy-in. So when talk of stakeholder, we are talking about maybe the support of the top management, maybe even the employees themselves. They are also one of the stakeholders of the organization. So lack of support and involvement from key stakeholders can hinder the successful implementation of the HR information system because it needs finance, it needs training, and it really needs support. If the top management is not supporting the process, then the human resource department cannot go ahead and implement it because they will not have the resources to do the implementation. Then you need to address this challenge by communicating the benefits of the HR information system to the stakeholder and involve them in the decision making process. So that's how you address the challenge of lack of stakeholder buy-in. Okay, communicate to them, convince them how important is the system and the benefit the organization is going to get from it, and also involve them to make some of the key decisions in the process of implementing the system. Challenge number two is the data migration issues. Transferring data from legacy systems to the new HR information system can be challenging due to data format differences and the inconsistency. Yes, the current system you're having maybe is different from the one you are going to introduce. So that kind of format inconsistency can lead to uh, misinformation, or it can be challenging to people who are transferring the data. So, what do you do to address that challenge? You need to carefully plan data cleansing and testing are necessary to ensure a smooth data migration process. So, that is the solution to the issue of transferring data from the legal system to the new one. The next challenge now is integration with the existing systems. Integrating the HR information system with the other existing systems, such as payroll or timekeeping system, can be complex and require significant coordination. So when you are integrating the current or the existing system now to the new one, it is challenging because one we had already looked at the difference in data format, uh, inconsistency, etc. It really affects the integration process. How do you address that? So the organization should identify integration requirements early on and work closely with the vendors or the IT teams to ensure seamless integration. So here the IT team and the vendor or the manufacturer of the system can help in addressing the integration challenge. Otherwise, if you only want to do it at the department or the human resource level, it will be quite challenging because the system requires some special skills in terms of the IT, etc. So these are some of the things you need to take into consideration when you're trying to integrate the system. The next challenge now is the resistance to change. Employees may resist the implementation of a new HR information system due to fear of job loss or unfamiliarity with the new system. So anything new, of course, comes with implications with the negative perception. So if you don't train them on how the system is going to be used, and if you don't explain to them why the organization need to have the system, then they will end up resisting it, thinking that since they can't manage the system, they will be knocked out, or the organization is going to look for someone who will be managing the system. So you need to tell them from the start so that they will be aware of what you're doing and what you intend to do in terms of training to them to manage the system. So the solution is you need to clearly communicate the training programs and change management initiative, which can help overcome resistance and encourage user adoption. So basically, these are some of the things you need to do and resistance to change challenge. Now, the next challenge is insufficient user training. Inadequate training on the HR information system can lead to underutilization or errors in system usage. It means you need to thoroughly train the employees. If you don't train them, or if the training is not sufficient enough, of course, errors will be too much. People start committing errors because they are not familiar with the system, because the training they were given is not sufficient enough to master the system. So the implication here is you need to give them at least a lengthy training, or also to closely supervise them when they are utilizing or transferring the data from the existing system to system. The next challenge is data security and privacy. So the HR information system implementation involves handling sensitive employee data, which poses security and privacy concerns. For example, someone who is transferring the data can, of course, get to know about sensitive information of some employees in the organization. So, as a manager, what do you need to do? You need to make sure that the security measures compliance is in place. You need to train the people who are transferring the data on security and privacy matters so that such information remains confidential. It should not be revealed to the public or to the employees in the organization. So these are some of the challenge and the solution you need to look at as trying to transfer data from the current system to the new system. So that's what I had for you in this presentation. Thank you so much for watching. We shall have this again in the next session.